Hey guys, it's Andy from Estella's Revenge, and I'm here today with a wrap-up of my Diverseathon reading. It is Saturday when I'm filming this, so there is another day of the event, but I don't know how much I'm actually going to be able to read. If I do manage to finish one more book, I will include my thoughts on it in my January wrap-up. So, I expected to read 3 books this week. I actually managed to read 5, though 2 of those were very, very short. They were still very, very powerful, so I'm glad that I was able to fit them in. So the first book I finished this week was If I Was Your Girl by Meredith Russo. I mentioned it in my TBR. It's about a trans high school student who moves from a suburb of Atlanta to a more rural area to live with her dad after some a violent incident toward her at her old school. And so when she moves, she very quickly makes friends. She gains a love interest in Grant, who is fairly popular and on the football team, and she befriends girls at her school who are, again, fairly popular. They are also evangelical Christians, but some of them are kind of keeping secrets of their own. She also befriends a girl in her art class. She is an artist, a photographer, and she is bisexual, and so they have kind of these secrets that they have to keep from everyone else, though Amanda, the main character, is still very close-lipped about her transition, even to this friend who she has things in common with. And so really the crux of the story is her settling into this new environment and deciding when or if or how to tell her friends and this guy that she's dating that she has transitioned. And interspersed with her story is the backstory. So how she came out to her parents, how she decided to transition, what the visit to the doctor was like, where she discussed the transition and beginning to take hormones and things like that. So you get all of her backstory as well, and it was really good book. It was very involving. It was very quick and readable. Probably the most important part is the author's note at the end of the book. She is very quick to point out the narrative choices that she made, how one should not read Amanda's story as a single story that indicates what it is like to be trans and to transition. And so I really appreciated that author's note at the end. It shed further light on the story and to the experience of being trans in general. So really appreciated that. The second book that I finished was Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes, and I listened to it on audio. And I've actually gotten into quite a bit of nonfiction this year on audio. I loved this book. I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't watch Grey's Anatomy or Scandal or How to Get Away with Murder. Those are all of Shonda Rhimes' shows. She owns Thursday nights, and I've never seen any of them. But I love her. I love her personality. She is a go-getter. She is a big, big personality. And I appreciated how normal she is in Year of Yes. She decides after her sister makes an offhand comment that she is going to say yes to everything that scares or challenges her for a year. And so that includes public speaking, live television, weight loss, just a lot of personal and professional issues. She's always very quick to say no to those. But in doing this challenge, she says yes. She learns a lot about herself. She evolves quite a lot as a person. And it was funny, over the top, just absolutely enjoyable all the way through. I highly, highly recommend it if you like memoir and self-help as well. The next book I read, and the only one I have to hold up, is Sula by Toni Morrison, and I very quickly rated this 5 stars on Goodreads when I finished. It is about 2 girls, Nell and Sula, who grow up together in a segregated black town in the U.S. It's called The Bottom, and it's located up the side of a mountain. And it is not only about Sula and her friend Nell, it's also about their family and growing up in 2 very different households. It's also about how one's experience as a child, even overhearing something from a parent, can change you for life. Sula is not a very likable character. I loved her. I would say she is probably a new favorite character of mine. But I think most people would find her unlikable. I think a lot of people would find her unsympathetic, but I found her to be unlikable but very sympathetic. As she and Nell grow up, Nell stays in the town and has a very traditional, acceptable life. She marries, she has a family, and runs her home. Sula takes off, goes to the big city, travels around the US, lives a very free-spirited life. And she comes back to the town with her free-spirited self and really makes waves, does not make friends, loses friends, becomes something of an outcast. And I just loved following the journey. Like most, if not all, of Toni Morrison's books, I've only read 3 so far. It is very sexually graphic. It is very violent. It is very... it's just brutal. But I got a lot out of it. You know, it's not gratuitous, but it is affecting for sure on a number of levels. So 5 stars for Sula by Toni Morrison. Next, I read March, Book 1 by John Lewis. I cannot recall the name of the illustrators and the folks who put it into graphic novel format at the moment, but I will include all that in the down bar. I've had this sitting on my e-reader for too long because I'd had trouble downloading it and actually getting it to read correctly, but it finally worked itself out. I enjoyed it a great deal. The storytelling is very straightforward. John Lewis narrating his experience in the civil rights movement. And I think my only critique of it, because I really liked the artwork, I really liked the story, though I found the story fairly straightforward in a way that the artwork was more dynamic. So I enjoyed it. It was too short for me, but of course there are volumes 2 and 3, so I rated that one 4 out of 5 stars. And finally, I read a collection of poetry called Salt, and that was written by Nayyirah Waheed. And I don't read a lot of poetry. The last poetry collection I read, I believe, was Citizen by Claudia Rankin. My friend Janani from the Shrinkette was reading Salt, and so I went over to Amazon, found that it was a free download, and read it in a gulp this week. It was fantastic. It was very straightforward. It was very spare in style, but also fearless and on fire when it came to looking at race, ethnicity, femininity, the immigrant experience, the experience of being an African immigrant in the U.S., She had some really searing things to say about tourism in Africa as well, and it was just stunning. Like, I gulped it down, I highlighted, copied and pasted, took screenshots of so much of it that I want to go back and remember. Absolutely, without a doubt, we'll read it again. So that is Salt by Nayyirah Waheed. If it is still free on Amazon, and if it's not, if you have to pay full price for it, it is totally, totally worth it. So go check that out. So those are the 5 books I managed to read for Diverseathon. I may be able to finish Phoebe Robinson's book, Don't Touch My Hair, and other things I still have to explain. And I started it last night. I don't know if I'll be able to finish, but I really hope so, because I am very much enjoying that. So, Diverseathon, great experience. I read some great books, and I am looking forward to very soon making a TBR for #ReadSoulLit. So, watch for that. It's on the way. I hope you all are having a great day. I'll see you soon. Bye.